Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, The Corporate Socialite Budgets. And today I am so glad to be back. I have not been on YouTube and I honestly have been a little bit removed from my budget for some time. So I am very glad to come back in and be held accountable for some of my budgeting decisions and, just be a little bit more tunnel visioned in my finances. So my last video, I believe, was maybe December or even January of this year. You know what? Actually, I take that back. My last video was maybe in 2022. So it's been well over a year since I've been on YouTube. And honestly, toward the end of 2023, I kind of was removed from my budget and not as focused on it as I usually like to be. So I think maybe in March or so, I did get back onto budgeting and being a lot more aware of some of my expenses and finances. But since my last video, so much has been happening in my world, from personal life to my career. So just for starters, I got a brand new job at a different company in the same industry. That job increased my salary by double. So now I am in the six-figure range. So that has been a difference, I will say. So it's been a great experience so far, but I will say when I first started at the company, I saw the paycheck increase and stopped caring about expenses and budgeting. And then I slowly was like, okay, now I've kind of had fun and I need to reel things back in. So I'm back. Other than that, I have moved to a different city. So I'm in a different apartment, which the rent in my apartment also has kind of doubled. So I'm cringing at that as well. But other than that, I'm very excited to be back. All of the newness in my life has been for the better. So I'm extremely excited to share this new journey with you all as well. So I do have similar goals to what I used to have in my videos a year or so ago. For one, I would like my age of money to continue to hit that 30-day mark. So at this point, it's at 12, which we can kind of talk through later. I have 3 credit cards that I am actively paying down. So I have an update on that as well. And other than that, I do want to make sure that my month ahead fund is budgeted at my new level of expenses, which is about $4,000 or so for each month. And then I have a slew of sinking funds that I'm paying toward. So at this point, I did get paid today, so my ready to assign is about $3,400. So what I like to do first is to pay myself, which means month ahead sinking fund, as well as any of my other miscellaneous sinking funds, which will be listed here under Save Chick Sinking Funds. So for starters, I do have a monthly rollover savings will that I will present right here. And essentially, each time I get paid, I want to spend this will twice, and whatever it lands on is what I would put into my monthly rollover. And the goal itself is to have a savings of $5,000. So the different values on this will do equate to $5,000. And I should meet that goal, I believe in 6 months. I'm not quite sure, but it was kind of a savings chart that I found on Pinterest. I just put it into this will. So it landed on $325 and on $85. Okay. So I'm going to put $410 into my month ahead rollover. I'm sorry, $410 into my month ahead rollover. Okay, not too bad. Overall, my expenses for the month technically equate to about $4,500, but I did add in a $500 buffer at $5,000 just so I can have a little bit of cushion for miscellaneous expenses that pop up each month. So I'm about 14% to my target, which I like this new YNAB update that kind of gives us this progress will, so I appreciate that as well. And then next, I'm going to pay back any overspent categories. I've tried not to overspend too much with real cash. I do kind of tap into credit cards once I reached my budget limit, which is not the best. I know it's called the credit card float, but I try to avoid that as much as possible. So any of the expenses that are in red, I'll go ahead and cover. So hair, I believe I'm $15 in the red, and then $18.56 in the red here. Okay. And of course, the rest of these are credit card, which I will say I did have a trip earlier this month to Puerto Rico that I accounted for as far as travel costs, but I did not account for just spending money. So that's where I kind of messed myself up and ended up using credit cards for way too much of the trip. And also I have another trip set up to Costa Rica in July. So I need to make sure I at least budget at least spending money so I won't be in the same predicament. So sinking funds is where I'll go to next. So I have an emergency fund that I recently funded. So it's $1,000. And honestly, I'm still determining the difference between the emergency fund and the month ahead. They kind of do the same thing. You have that buffer of money in case something goes wrong, but I still want to keep them separate since month ahead really should cover my expenses for the next month. An emergency fund, I only really want to tap into that if something breaks and I need to actually recover that. So that's been funded. Next is fantasy vacation. So this vacation is actually to Aruba. I set up a trip for my boyfriend. He recently had a promotion at work. So his birthday is also in October. So I wanted to do an all-in-one trip that will be inclusive of birthday and recent promotion. I'm covering the cost of the resort, which is roughly $3,000. So I do have a savings wheel set up for that. So essentially it has the different values, which you will see on this wheel here. And all the values, if I spin the wheel up until the trip, I should be at my $3,000 mark. So very similar to my month ahead rollover wheel. Okay, so I did spin the wheel twice this week. I have it set up where every other week I spin the wheel twice so I can be able to reach my goal. So at this point, I'm going to add $510 to this sinking fund. And of course, if something happens and, I need to tap into this money for some sort of emergency, then I will do that. And I know some of you are like, well, why don't you just put that towards the credit card? That's been a thought, but I do want to make sure that I have some sort of money set aside for this as well. Okay, so the next item is homecoming. So I do have another trip. If you guys are very new to my channel or may not be as familiar or even remember, I do travel a lot and I love to hang out with my friends, but I need to make sure I'm doing it somewhat responsibly and at least keeping a pulse of my finances. So I have various trips set up for the remainder of the year, and one includes a trip to homecoming for my alma mater. So by the end of the month, the group should be sending the remainder of their funds for this trip, and that'll be able to cover homecoming and that Airbnb lodging expense. So under that is my personal savings toward this deposit. So by the end of the month, I do need to have enough money saved up so I can also account for my second payment on the same schedule as my friends. So I have a schedule or a payment plan set up on YNAB. So I need to put at least $38.39 toward this month's savings plan. Okay. And the payment is due by either the end of this month or the beginning of July. So once I reach July, I should have, I believe it's 192. Yep. Okay, so that covers sinking funds. I'm going to now move to credit card payments and also just give you all an update on where I stand with my credit card paydown status. So since I've last been on YouTube, I had about 4 different cards I was paying toward, which included Chase Sapphire, Discover, Best Buy, and Capital One. And since I've last seen you all, there have been many updates. So Best Buy and Capital One have been completely paid off. However, I still have both Chase and Discover, and I've added on PayPal now to that fold. And I've had significant increases on all of the credit limits, but they are obviously not paid off, and I was not being the most responsible. I still was spending toward the new credit limit. So at this point, PayPal is paid off about 74%, and that is the credit card I'm actively paying down at this point. I'm doing like the snowball method where I pay down the lowest cost first, and then Discover would be next in line. It's about 23% paid off, and then Chase is really in the rear, so it's 0% paid off, and honestly, I've probably overspent on that one as well. So what I like to do in this instance is to kind of mark $30 for each payment, which is kind of like the minimum for each card, including cards that are paid off. And then I just move the cards that have been paid off, the money for those, to PayPal. It's kind of tedious, but I do think that it makes sense to me if I do it this way. And then the cards that are still being paid down still receive that $30 payment, and then PayPal would now receive $60, which kind of seems off. I think I did something wrong. Okay, so $90. Oh, actually. That seems right. So $120 should go toward PayPal, and then the other cards, Discover and Chase, will receive an additional $30 payment. Okay, so now let's move to the real items, which is Batty with bills, which are my essential bills that, obviously will not change and will occur month over month. So what I'm doing now until I build my monthly rollover back up, I'm gonna pay toward all expenses that take place between the 15th and the 30th. So now I'm on a payment schedule of the 1st of each month and the 15th of each month. So car note needs to be covered, auto insurance, and let's do gas here. And then I will clean up groceries because I already kind of overspent there. But let's do auto assigned, and let's say underfunded, since I already have the payment amounts needed set up. Okay, so I think I'm good there. And for groceries, I'm going to add, let's say, $150.14 to cover that cost. Yep. Okay. Now let's move to expenses. So this category includes subscription services, kind of those miscellaneous expenses that take place, and they could fluctuate month over month, such as the credit card interest payments or random fees that occur on my account that I have to investigate. And some of these items also kind of get removed, or I just cancel the subscriptions. I just leave it here because these aren't necessarily critical to my quality of life. It's just kind of nice to have. So I'm going to also do the same method where I start at the 15th and then go all the way through the 30th. So I'm going to just select all of the items that go down to the 30th. And then I'm going to do spent last month. Okay, I guess this is right. Let me double check this here. I'm not going to be paying that much toward capital Chase right now, towards interest, or even here. I'll come back to those as needed. Okay, so this looks good enough. Not the best. Bear with me, you all. I will have a better handle on this soon enough. And this next category is all things 305. As most of you all know who have been a part of my community for a while now, my mom passed in December, and after that I kind of became power of attorney over Dad's estate, which includes the house that I grew up in back in Miami, and also any of the other expenses that kind of impact his quality of life. So I'm not really going to go too much into detail regarding this particular category. So I'm going to move over to socialiting, which is the category that is still pertaining to my life. And this is very ugly. There's so much red, there's so much orange and yellow. So I'm going to see how I can clean this up as best as possible. So let's see. I don't even know what to do here, honestly. Let me close this one down. I do have some paying for payments that are upcoming, so I want to make sure that I have that covered. So let's say it's going to be 2 upcoming transactions that total $118.99, and I'm actually going to just add $150 here. All right. This looks a mess. I don't even know where to begin. And I really should do the responsible thing and just pay all of this stuff back, but I don't even have enough in my ready to assign to do that at this point. So what I'm going to do is go to my overspent category. And I'm going to pay back at least, I guess, 300 of these categories back. I'm at 293. Yikes. So let's just do that. Okay. And I'm going to add the 3588 here. This is not the best method. This is really not the most responsible way to do this. However, I am trying to make sure that my account is not at zero before I get paid again. So I have about $500 remaining. Let's see my other categories here. Credit card buffer is built up. Pay some of these items back as well, since it's a small amount. Okay guys, you're not gonna like this, and I'm not liking this either, but if you bear with me, I promise we're gonna get on track. What I'm gonna do is put the remaining money into this category that's not impacted by a credit card overspend, just so I can ensure that I have funds available for random spending for the next couple of weeks until I'm paid again. So I'm gonna do $482.07 here. And that's kind of where we stand on things. I'm taking it a step at a time. I'm sure it will all come together as long as I stay on top of my finances here. But I appreciate you all so much for sticking with me, and I'm so glad to be back, and I will see you all on the next video. Thank you. Have a good one.